Well, she didn't log off again. Oh, yeah, this is there, there and here. It's got everything covered.
Quantum effect.
Right, it's 6 o'clock. Hold the OVSD meeting. 28 order. And pull the roll out.
Sure, Director Martinson, Director Kentosh,
Here.
Pelosi,
Here.
Chair Stone.
Here.
I think we have, oh, Cindy's.
And then we have Director Ulrich's on, but he does not have a 2449. Is that correct? Correct. And Director Curtis is on. 2449, Jack?
Yes.
Do we need a motion for that?
Yeah, so you guys will go for this AB 2 request.
I'll move approval of his 2449 request.
Call the roll.
Does that request have to be made prior to the start of the meeting?
Not.
Not, okay, then I vote approve.
Director Kentosh.
I have a question for Misha. Is this request all copacetic? Okay. I'm sure if you can hear me, is
Yep.
this report legal?
Yes, this is all, it's all
Oh, yeah.
according to law. You're all good.
Director Pelosi.
Yes.
Yes. With that, stand for the pledge of allegiance. Ready to begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic which stands, nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Allison, do we have any additions?
We do not.
Public concerns. Do we have any public concerns? Public on? Seeing anybody? Move on to, oh, nothing written used. Move on to items 6, 7, and 8.
I have a couple of questions on 7. We can pull that from the consent calendar.
I will be abstaining from 6 because I wasn't at September 23rd meeting.
Oh,
There. Everybody make it? No? Yeah.
No, I think that was the one where we bought a truck. spent a
Okay.
bunch of money.
Maybe the employees are raised.
Gave the employees a raise.
Well,
busy meeting.
I think that item 6 will have to be for next meeting because you don't have enough people to actually vote then. Because you'll have
With
two
Jack, we do.
abstaining on it. We have 3. Stone and Hudson are both abstaining because they weren't here.
That's the plurality. I think last time we talked about that was a plurality of the.
Okay, I would have a question then for Misha. We have 2 people abstaining, voting on bits of a prior meeting because they were not here. And the remaining 3,
Yes. The remaining three can approve it because the abstaining people don't know, if it's correct. So
we have
absolutely,
a
yes.
quorum present and a majority of those present. If Jack votes yes. Jack there?
Yes.
He was,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes, that's a valid vote.
That's a valid vote, okay.
Yep.
Then
He was absent, so we don't have enough. So we'll have to
Okay.
push Item 6 to the meeting.
that's the next meeting.
Then what questions do you have on item 7?
On item 7, going to the agenda packet on page 19. Am I correct in assuming that the owner, at this point, this is the piece of violation portion of item 7. Owner can either convert the ADU to a guest house by moving stuff, pay the ADU capacity charge. Is that the choice?
Yeah, so it doesn't actually, we don't classify what it is when they remove, because only being agency, so the county or the city can designate use by calling it whatever it is, whether it's an ADU, guest house, et cetera. Our code would say that it is a habitable building if it has those 3 components.
Right.
So we essentially, by removing one of those components, which is the kitchen that they choose to remove, essentially we consider it a non-habitable space separately from the main house, and that's all we care about. We don't relabel it as anything.
Okay.
It's essentially a bedroom with a bathroom by,
Parallels the definitions of ADU and guest house, but at least in the city.
I mean, theoretically, I mean, but essentially we don't relabel it as a guest house with a non-kitchen, like it's not permitted as anything of that sort. Right, literally an illegal unit, of some sort.
Okay,
So until
okay.
a permitting agency designates it with a label, it is just a violation because it's definitely habitable
Okay.
for our code.
If the owner then chooses not to remove any of those accessories or whatever, then you have to go do a DFU count and we charge a prorated
No.
capacity charge?
No, because a prorated capacity charge would only be charged to something that has the accessory dwelling unit label. So that would it would have to be permitted as such by the county or the city in order to qualify as proportional under our code. So it is
Okay,
just a second habitable dwelling and it's subject to full capacity charge.
okay. Are there any past charges due as well? Do we start the clock running when we discover this habitable unit, or how does that work?
Yeah, so essentially what happens is that in the instance where they remove the component, they sign the agreement, they owe us nothing, they abide by the code as it is future state. If they choose to permit it as a second rated sewer service fees from the date in which they execute the agreement, not charge them retroactive sewer service fees unless it is a re-violation.
Very good. Page 21. I note that the contact for OVSD is Allison. I thought that in the past, it's always been the GM.
It will be the permanent general manager when.
Oh, okay.
These stay on for so many years that I'm a consistent person currently, and so
Sure.
it just made it easy.
All right. Pages 29 and 30, nearly identical Exhibit C pages, but one lists penalty and interest referencing health and safety code. The other one lists OVSD code.
Correct.
Are they different?
They're not, they're duplicate pages, and OVSD code likely references this health and safety code as well.
Okay,
They're duplicate. They don't really have any, one does not supersede the other in any way. I think it was probably a slightly misused template, which an extra exhibit was inserted.
very good. Thank you. On item 8, page 78. That's just curious. There's a check to someone called EALALE. That,
An employee of the district who is being reimbursed for a DMV visit.
oh, thank you very much. I move approval of 7 and 8, sir.
Second,
Motion and second.
Director Martinson?
Yes.
Director Kentosh?
yes.
Policy?
Yes.
And Chair Stone?
Yes.
And Director Curtis?
Oh, sorry, Director Curtis?
Yeah.
Thank you.
On to item 9. Contract change order number 1 to contract number 2024-19, Pico Road Interior Accessibility Improvement. 2024 review budget adjustment number 2025-14. Scott, would you like to handle this, please?
Yes, please. So what we have in front of you is the interior accessibility improvements for this facility here on Tico Road. We had a contract that was started with Rasmussen and Associates for some architectural services. It worked out for the back buildings such that retroactively we had to get ADA compliance. And so we're asking for after the fact permits for this facility. What that's going to entail is some civil engineering work, some site work to look at it, some survey work, and then permitting. So what you have here in front of you is the change order for Rasmussen to fulfill that requirement. Specifically on here, if you go to page 4, you'll see that there's a couple of additional expenses that we've added in. The additional expenses for fees for $750 and the bid phase technical analysis for $4,500. Those are estimates that we brought into it. This portion of the work should take us through bidding services and with the next phase, which would be construction and construction management.
Permit?
No, it's an earmark for a permit. Right. The additional $750 and the $4,500 are earmarks for additional expenses that may come in. The other items are proposed change orders. So for the total on this is $31,460 for the Rasmussen services. Remainder up to the $47,847.19 is for additional expenses for their contractors and for additional expenses that we foresee for the permits and for the bid-based technical services. If it adopted, this will require a transfer budget adjustment, transferring $47,848 from the building reserve fund to major expenditures.
Is it possible there might be some surprises down the road, find something that's compliant, so we have more work to do?
No. Basically, we've already expensed around $700,000 to build our shop building back, which time we should have done the associated necessary ADA improvements, must equal % of our $1,000. That's what we're doing now. We're guided by our site plan. And so we're anticipating construction costs of around $100,000. We've already expensed approximately $15,000 for the restroom in the front. Fixing our front desk counter to make ADA path of travel front parking area to the back shop building. Bring the site to. As far as other little fees and things, nothing major anticipated except for construction costs, which will be about 135. Construction phase services might be 15, but we'll take the lead on CM and PM. Technical assistance from the architects and civil engineers. If there are technical reviews we need assistance with. Also liaisoning with the county. Start the pros at that. I mean, this isn't our business, you know, the job addition is kind of a unique project for us and requires a lot of unique. Why there's some of these line items in here that we didn't exactly anticipate dollar for dollar because we just didn't really, we don't have a pulse on the tip of.
Well, thank you.
I have a question also. Of course, the permitting, additional contracting and submittals and all of that's all legitimately part of the 20%? Or does the construction have to be
That's a good question.
20% of the project cost?
Site improvements. It's in the building code. And that section, and I'm pretty sure you have to spend that much site improvement. Can you count? I don't think you can count architectural services, but we'll,
It sounds like there's another 135 we have to spend
yes, there is.
somehow on construction.
Absolutely. So we have 260K left in the building reserve, and we will only have 100,000 or slightly above that left once this project is complete. So we'll.
Thank you.
Questions?
Not really optional for us.
All right. Somebody's to entertain a motion.
Motion to authorize item 9A and B. Eco Road accessibility improvement.
Second that.
Motion is second. Allison, would you call the roll, please?
Director Curtis,
Yeah.
Director Martinson.
Yes.
Pentosh.
Yes.
Levesey,
Yes.
Chair Stone.
Yes. Moving on to item 10. Ventura River algae TMDL monitoring. Sherry?
All right, so this is an item for the Ventura River algae TMDL. So it's the total maximum daily load limiting monitoring program. And it's an equal cost sharing program for a total for OVSD for a total of $123,707.98. And that would be for 3 years. So that's approximately $41,000 per year. Give you a little bit of background on this. So in or about 2012, the regional board came down with a mandated plan for the region. The region consists of the city of Ventura, the city of Ojai, Ojai Valley Sanitary District, Caltrans, Ventura County Watershed Protection District, and Ventura County itself as a partner. At one point also, the Ventura County Farm Bureau was a participant. They're no longer participating. That's one of the reasons why the cost went up this year is it's no longer 1/7, it's now 1/6 share. So what this is for, it's mandated or close to mandated monitoring of the algae within the river. We want to draw your attention to the one change in the last sentence of paragraph 2. Should read, each party's cost share is $123,707.98 for a 3-year term beginning January 1st, 2025 and ending January 1st, 2028. That should help clarify this. So what we have right now is motion in front of you for monitoring and sharing the cost with the other participants in the group. If you were to go to page 90. Page 100 in table B1. OVSD is in essence is the middle entity, the middle party. It has the breakdown of the 3 years. So it'd be 39,000 and change for year 1, 41,000 and change for year 2, and 42,000 and change for year 3.
The implication is that we're approving not just the MOU, we're also venture the fund.
Correct. The accepting the MOU is and also accepting to participate shared cost.
Questions?
We can go back up to the beginning of this item on page 90. Second paragraph next to the last line talks about a CMP. There are a lot of other acronyms in this discussion. They're all spelled out. VRA, CMP, CIMP, VRA, CMP. What is the CMP?
The CMP is the Comprehensive Monitoring Plan. That is how it was originally set up. They've had some minor changes to it now, and according to the county, it's now referred to as the VRA CMP, which stands for the Comprehensive Monitoring Plan for Ventura County River Algae. In essence, it's the same. The CMP, the VRA CMP, is the plan to do comprehensive monitoring.
Okay. On page 99, table A2, the 742, 247 and 88 cents, which is called out at the beginning of the staff report, table A1. Are we also agreeing to pay our share of the additional 4,000 isn't mentioned?
No, you're not. So the 24,000 in table A2 is for the MS4 outfall monitoring, and only the county, Ventura County Protection Water District, City of Ojai, and the City of Ventura are responsible for that 24,000. So OVSD is not required to participate in the share of that 24,000.
That's all I needed to know. Thank you, sir.
No, I mean, I don't remember seeing this before, 2 years ago.
This is the second renewal of this same monitoring program. So for the last 3 years, we've had a very similar, lesser amount embedded in our annual budget to pay for our participation in the previous 3 programs.
Any further questions?
I'll move approval of item 10 in all its portions.
Second,
Second, Halpern.
Director Curtis,
Yeah.
Director Martinson,
Yes.
Director Pintosh,
yes.
Quillisi,
Yes.
and Chair Stone.
Yes. Okay, moving on to item 11, denutrification filters, continuous level monitoring, installation of above ground conduit, installation of 6 wire radar sensors for a total cost of $25,793. Budget adjustment number 2025-13.
So before you is an ask for expenses to modify some of the sand filters and the denitrification filters down at the treatment plant. It's for an ask of $25,793 in a budget adjustment. What it is for is for the purchase of 6 Vega sensors and some mounting brackets and the installation of these. And I do want to note that the recommendations to be adopted as follows. It ought to include a third line item. The way that it's written up right here, it was for Taft Electrical to purchase the sensors. The district has found that it's going to be better off for the district for us to purchase them directly, not pay a markup, and then simply have Taft install it. So the end price value is the same, but we've been doing that monitoring, in essence, doing that purchase.
So the
It's 2 checks instead of 1, and you don't pay up. So that's what that is. Taft would be installing conduits. They'd be pulling wires within these conduits. They'd be both power wires and monitoring wires. And we would purchase these Vega monitors. The Vega monitors are currently used down at the facility. Operations crews know how to use them. Taft Electrical knows how to install them. This was not part of the original TMDL project, which is now closed. The reason being is in a cost savings and some value engineering. I think it was looked at, it was a possibility that you may need it, but it was a possibility that you may need it. I think the risk was taken that perhaps we didn't need it. And I think what we're finding is it would be better if we had it. The end result for the district is you would have the same line item of about $25,000 to purchase it. But I don't think I think it's completely fair for us to purchase this and install it. What it allows us to do is it allows us to look at the 6 different sand filters or nitrification filters independently. And the crews can then look at it and perhaps even operate them or clean them remotely using their
On page 101, third bullet, talking about a manual wash system cycle activated remotely, which Scott just mentioned. That constitute a call out when someone has to do remote cycle?
If somebody's, the way we currently do it, somebody's already on the iPad and monitoring the plant, which we do periodically. Plant's pretty technical at this point, especially with denitrification filters coming online. If they're already on and they need to put it into a backwash cycle based on the water level not being high enough to hit flow actuator to activate the air to put it into a wash cycle, and we deem that we need to go ahead and just put it into a wash cycle, then we can just do it while we're on the iPad. If somebody's out mowing the lawn and they get a call, and they have to off the lawnmower, we'll log into the iPad, get online, and figure out what the alarm is, and they find that they have a filter that needs to go into backwash, then yes, I would say
That's a call out, yeah. Just one other, I'm kind of curious, on page 108, right at the end of this. In the quote from Vega, it says additional charges, kind of additional costs. I've seen that on an invoice before.
I've been around a couple times with Vega on that, and what the kind of additional cost is tax. So if you run the numbers, it's 7.5%. So why it was an estimate for tax?
Sales tax.
Why it was put in as a specific line item of kind of additional costs, I'm not quite sure. It is the 7.5% sales tax. Yes, it's labeled.
Move approval of item 11 in all its parts.
Second.
In a second. Allison, real quick.
Director Curtis,
Yeah.
Director Martinson,
Yes.
Director Kentosh,
Yes.
Quillisi,
Yes.
and Chair Stone.
Yes. Here we go again. Information technology equipment, 6 servers. Well, budget adjustment number 2025-12. What's this one? Scott, Jan?
I'll take it. This is an ask for the replacement of 6 servers for the IT group here, including a budget adjustment. The total ask $93,806. The servers are outlined in the board letter. I think what should be noted is that the price proposed from Dell came in less than was originally budgeted. The original price was $137,000. The actual quote is the $93,805. I don't know I don't know what the life expectancy of these is.
4 years.
Around 4 years.
So do we know why they came in at less?
Well, they run some quarterly thing all the time, Dell does, and also electronics, they get cheaper and cheaper, with more and more power. And so, we're not really changing anything, so we're not really upgrading to bigger, faster, better, or whatever. It's kind of like we're maintaining the same level of server, and so the price keeps coming down. So, probably not be that far off next time around because I'm paying for less, so.
Further questions? Do you have a motion in a second?
I'll move for the authorization of item 12A, 6 servers. I'll second it.
We have a motion in a second. Allison, would you call the roll, please?
Director Curtis,
Yes.
Director Martinson,
Yeah.
Director Kentosh,
Yes.
Quillisi,
Yes.
and Chair Stone.
Yes.
Thank you, Bill.
Don't ever do it again.
No, that's
That's some old stuff.
for the board members that don't know, that goes back to board member said we never needed to get computers, so every time this came up,
Did you say that?
no, I didn't.
Never need computer?
You don't need those things.
Where are they now?
Green Journal paper works just fine.
That's right. Okay, did we miss
Like to change my vote?
Yeah, two item 12s on here. One is City of Ojai and one is replacement information technology.
Just did number 12, which was information technology. You should be on 13, which should be election for LAFCO. Do you have it on yours? Skip to that one.
We'll skip to the second, number 12. To item 13, election for LAFCO official districts.
For your consideration is the election for the LAFCO. OVSD is one of 29 agencies within the county that have a vote. Each agency has a single vote. Running this year as nominated is Mohammed Hassan from United Water, Steve Hoover, also from United Water District, Chris Stevens from Ventura Port District, and William Urlich from OVSD.
This is pretty much a no-brainer. So, raise your hand if you want this.
Volunteered for it last meeting.
I guess we're not supposed to communicate, are we?
Not saying no.
United is a fine group. I think we should. Authorize us our vote for Greater LAFCO nominate Bill Ulrich.
Second that.
We have motion and second. I think we just need a vote on this, don't we?
Well, you're also, but you're actually directing staff for A, B, and C also, so we probably should actually vote.
Okay, let's do a roll call.
Director Curtis?
Yeah.
Okay. Director Martinson?
Yes.
Director Kentosh?
Yes.
Pelosi?
Yes.
And Chair Stone.
Yes. Item 14.
So item 14 is for discussion only. There's no action on this. What's going to get passed out to you is a spreadsheet, and it's a spreadsheet of the list of DMV licensed vehicles that OVSD has. The vehicles that are highlighted yellow, those are commercial vehicles. So those would include like the gap vacs, the camera truck, the water truck, the swap loader, and the dump truck. The vehicles that are highlighted green, regular SUVs, or in the case of the van. And ones that are highlighted blue are pickup trucks. Some of the pickup trucks have some specialty equipment on them. It could be lights, it could be pointy tanks, things like that, or tool. What I want to draw your attention to is that few of the vehicles are starting to get a little long in the tooth. So there's different agencies have different ways of organizing things. One of the things I did do is I looked out to Ventura County GSA, so it's the General Services Agency, and I reverse engineered how or asked them and figured out how they replace their vehicles. And what they use is they use a point system. They use 1 point for every year old it is. They use 1 point for every 10,000 miles. And after you get 22 points, then it's not a mandatory retirement of the vehicle, but it's eligible for retirement of the vehicle. And so these are now listed, you see them, they're listed in the order of retirement. So as what we saw at the last meeting, the gap fax was voted for it. If we were to use the forecasted eligibility from the county, it would have been roughly around 2019, which probably would have been a little bit premature, I think. It run perfectly fine. But along those same lines, we could see that the Ford Edge with 186,000 miles on it, it's a 2014 Ford Edge. It's according to the county system, it would have been eligible for replacement. And the Ford Explorer, also a 2014 with 129,000 miles on it, would have been set for replacement at about this time. And if we have some other line items through there, we can see that they would be eligible for replacement to the county standard. So where I'm going with the whole thing is just for consideration, let everyone know that we have a few vehicles that are aging. They're ranked from most age down to the bottom, which is least age or least likely to need it. And for discussion is our vehicle fleet.
An issue that you've discussed in the past is recent past. Is this requirement for buying electric vehicles or natural gas powered vehicles? That tie into any of these?
It does not. Nothing on here ties into any need for electric or natural gas vehicles.
That had to do more, I think, with diesel powered vehicles than gas powered.
I think it does that way. It's usually on the commercial vehicles. And the gap backs that was authorized to be purchased last month is going to be a diesel. And there's an expectation that it will be operating diesel for.
I do that. Okay, great, folks. I recall when we talked about the gap backs, you imputed mileage based on operating hours on the engine. That's why we have 32 mileage points. There's only 37,000 miles on the truck.
That's correct. That's exactly right.
Do you apply that thinking to any of the others?
Yes. So all of the commercial vehicles had similar thinking on where that the equivalent that we use would be 55 miles an hour. So we have the commercial vehicles have an hour on them. If you were to do 55 miles an hour, the hour beating, that's the kind of the equivalent mileage. I do want to highlight that different vehicles seem to operate. It's not a perfect linear curve, I would argue, in that the CCTV truck, though it's a diesel and it has an hour meter, it was a type of vehicle that really wasn't intended to be run idle. And my understanding is from talking to the staff is it was run at idle a lot of its early life. And it was because there was not a separate generator installed on it. And so the truck idled to run the lights, safety lights, and the camera. Subsequently, there was a generator put in that took it off the idling. The idling was pretty tough on that piece of equipment. It was not designed for that. That's not the same thing as the water truck. So the water truck runs off of a PTO, and when that PTO comes online, it's running at around 1,500 RPMs, which is really in the middle of the operating speed for a diesel. So when you're in the middle of that speed, it's
not moving either. So the engine's going to run hotter.
That's true too. Absolutely. It will run hotter. So there is, I guess my point is it's not a perfect, no, it's not perfectly correlated, but I think it's indicative.
Looking to buy one this year?
I think that may be premature to say I'm looking to buy one this year, but I don't know. I guess what I'm looking for is if there's any guidance on an age and in mileage that we would think we would run a piece of equipment to. What I don't want to have happen is where we have staff and no vehicles, staff to do their work, we have a breakdown. And there's ways to mitigate that. We could get rental vehicles. But where I'm going is that at $186,000 or 186,000 miles, 2014 SUV, probably got a fair use out of it. And yeah, and I'm happy to come up with various scenarios that other districts use for replacement. I'm happy to bring that back and pitch that to the board if that's something that you would consider also.
I could support Ford Edge, but it's the end of its life.
The Explorer?
Explorer's 129,000, so it's kind of on the fence about that one, but I can go either way.
I think what I would like to see myself is, I know we had some replacement policy in place early on, as well as it's being set aside for these. Now, I would like that to be visited again and see why we've quit using that or why we're not using it. If that's truly what's happening. I kind of like to see that straightened out or the policy brought back.
Is there a vehicle replacement fund? Vehicle replacement reserve? Remember the names of all of them.
There is a vehicle replacement reserve. And yes, there is one. There's enough money in it. And I'm
$7,722.
I don't, I'm not doubting that we don't need the vehicles. We need to replace a bit of a policy for that. I work at it.
Does our policy sound anything like the county's system?
I've done some basic research and I have been unable to find the policy myself, so I will dig more into it and see if I can find it. I've done a brief look and I came up empty. I will dive into historic documents and see what I can find.
Because I can't remember back when,
I believe that the district has a reserve policy that identifies the reserves and what their intended is. The district, to my knowledge, does not have a policy in which indicates what the standard annual contribution those would be based on a calculated formula on replacing stuff at the end of useful life. And there appears to be an absence of that sort of policy, so it's become a very subjective decision on what's brought forth. So reading a policy like that would be definitely advisable to guide the decisions going forward. It would require a very large contribution to catch up. We are close to needing to be replaced because there is insufficient funding. There's about funding for enough to purchase one vehicle. That's the history that have existed since my being here, is that our policy identifies by definition what the intended use for, but does not identify any standard annual contribution to any of the reserves based on some calculated formula.
Whoa, you've been extremely quiet.
I'd like to dig back in that and see if we can find it. I was almost sure we had something at one time and it would have gone back a few managers ago.
Search it.
Let's look and see. Anything further from? Item 14. To information items. 18, 19. You want to pull anything off of that?
I have 17.
Okay.
I think it's the first page of the operations or financial report. Okay. And I'm just curious, Bradshaw can probably answer this. Notice that treatment plant operations are below budget. Is that because we have less fluent, or is the plant more efficient now than it was when the budget was put together, or is it something else?
I think we'll see costs increase over time. I think we're early in the budget period. I think we just haven't seen some things catch up yet.
Okay.
Simple answer to that.
I can't even turn off my phone.
The button on the slide.
On page 137. In looking at the reserves, I wanted to thank staff for clarification during the finance committee meeting about reserve funds, noting that we have a little over 14 million in reserves, about 6 of that fenced. Could arguably called non-operating reserves or not usable reserves. And I think that made things a lot clearer for the finance committee. And Page 138. And 42 and 146, I'm just curious, current assets are down about $500,000 in August, 300,000 in September of commercial build accounts, I presume. I'm just curious, is there a short explanation for that?
When I responded to your question, I stated that from month to month, any budget adjustments that are approved by the board are booked, so you'll see them on the subsequent month's financials. So that would reflect any budget adjustments that were previously approved.
Well,
from
that
one
could have
month to the other.
had to do with the gap vax purchase.
Or anything that has a budget will come out of any one of these identified reserves, depending on how it was structured, and you'll see it reflected following a month's financials.
Thank you.
I see in the operations report, there was a violation, discharge violation.
Was.
Is it serious? Are there going to be any repercussions?
I don't think it was serious. I don't think there were any repercussions. There's a reasonable possibility that it was a bad sample, in essence, a contaminated sample. Bradshaw can dive into it more, but they did a bunch of subsequent sampling and everything.
Yeah, sampling several days before and several days after showed that we weren't having any problems with coliform. We had an extremely hot sample. It's been a piece of in the sample. It was certainly an outlier. And looking at our turbidities, looking at our UV transmittance, looking at our previous back-T data and data after the fact, I couldn't come up to anything conclusive as far as there was an actual operational problem. Everything was just steady state as can be. There was nothing jumping out at me that showed that we were having any problems.
So in reporting the violation, you're going to include mitigation, the samples before and after?
I did, yeah. I put in, data from days before, data from after, part of the comment was in reference to turbidity and transmittance and steady state. And, sometimes those things happen. Fortunate.
We'll have windshields that have the same problem.
Okay. Sometimes it's worse. You're driving with your mouth open.
So.
Yeah.
Statement, some time ago, fussed at them about the low interest rate we were getting, and still getting less than 1% of these numbers. Is he going to come back and present something? Is there scheduling yet for
He's ready to come back with something. However, I asked that we schedule that in January so that we have a proper transfer of conversation. If it's an ongoing conversation when we meet our new board, it's not fragmented.
I'm okay.
One more. On page 70, the FEMA disaster recovery project. You anticipate any additional reimbursement? Cal OES, addition to FEMA? It looks right now, if we don't get anything from Cal OES, we're about $1 million down.
From Cal OES. How much it is, I don't exactly know. There is a
Texts have gone in there as well.
There's a request, yes. There's a request, and we haven't heard anything denying it at this point.
The percentage designation is the maximum that each will fund. And Liz can speak to what that is. So that will indicate the maximum per dollar that you'll get back.
Most of our projects are funded by FEMA at 75% reimbursable, so the remaining 25%. Cal OES realizes that FEMA approved amount, it goes through this rigorous FEMA process, takes 1 to 2 years. Had 130,000 sent to us in cash approved. Have another almost 900,000 that's been obligated, meaning how much they're going to send us. We just don't know if they send it. It took 8 months this time. When you fund something 75%, that remaining 25%, LOES funds 75% of that. It ends up being 18.75%. And so the district is on the hook 6.25% plus any eligible FEMA costs. So once it's obligated, we know to the penny what we're getting. It's just a matter of waiting for that check to come.
Fingers crossed, we don't have another break this winter.
Do that every winter, right?
Yes.
Any other directives?
Had one other question. Are we planning AB 1, 2, 3, 4 ethics training January? We did it 2 years ago in January.
It'll be in January and it'll be assigned directly after seated.
Thank you.
All right. General manager comment.
Before I give any comments, you want to leave?
Sure.
Okay.
I just had like things I wanted to just inform the board about. Our last finance committee meeting, there was talk about additional expenses pertaining to our plant upgrade and operational costs moving forward. We do have a small lift station associated with our new filters 5 and 6. The pumps are very low horsepower. I don't know that we really need to get into the in-depth calculations to figure out what our increased costs are with that minor lift station. However, the big topic is increased chemical usage as it pertains to micro C, which is the carbon source that we're feeding all our filters. Currently, we're spending about $70,000 a year for feeding micro C in the evening hours to full process, not the denitrification filters, but to our anoxic zones up on the oxidation ditches. We're feeding about 45 gallons a day. Current micro C costs are $4.23 a gallon. It's pretty expensive stuff. Yeah, it's pretty expensive. So currently we're spending about 70,000 gallons. Today, we just put filters 1 through 6 in denitrification mode. We're feeding micro C to those filters to acclimate those filters to build biology, to subsequently reduce our dissolved oxygen. So we have another set of organisms after the dissolved oxygen is gone, it'll start pulling our nitrates down. That's our intent and that's our need as we go into more stringent limits in the future for total nitrogens. We got to remove the nitrates. We started at 5 milligrams per liter. We'll move up to about 20 milligrams per liter micro C feed as we go through this process, and it might equal a little bit more than that because now we're instead of testing filters 1 through 4, now we're putting 1 through 6 totally online. And so we're anticipating at 20 milligrams per liter, about 36 gallons a day of micro C to all 6 filters. That'll equal another $56,000. So we're looking at a total of $126,000 per year of micro C costs versus the $70,000 that we're currently spending. If we did, that's based on a flow of 1.75 million gallons a day is what we're currently running on average-ish. And so flows change, trait concentrations change. There's other factors that are going to kind of drive how much micro C we use. Some of those factors are, is micro C going to go up? We've paid more than $4.23 a gallon for micro C, and it could be wavering. Cost of glycerin, cost of proprietary chemicals, other stuff they put into their special micro C blend. Flow to the filters, concentration of your nitrates going to the filters, the time the filters are in denight mode. It's recommended per our meeting with Stantec engineers on site today, which was great timing, by the way, because we wanted to put filters 1 through 6 online and see what they can do. Pull our nitrates down to less than 1. If you take your nitrates and then you add your organic nitrogen, which is typically 1 to 1.5, we have to be on the nitrates. We don't exceed our free limit in the summertime. So we need to know what these filters can do because we have to be in compliance summer, June 29, 2025. Recommended that we run all 6 filters all year round, some level nitrification mode. Yeah, it depends on flows, depend on dilutions, on what our nitrates are. It's going to depend on how acclimated our filters are, what our biology levels are, and kind of that's where we're at. A lot of factors. We don't know all the answers yet. We're looking for answers, and we're looking to run these filters, and we're looking at what our nitrates are going to be. We're looking at what the seasonal variations are going to be based on our seasonal That's our limits for total nitrogen is higher in the winter than it is in the summer. Some pounds-based limits that we can't exceed seasonally in the summer for total nitrogen. And so I just wanted to throw it out there. Yeah, there is an increase in penalty fees. It could be as much as $56,000 a year more than what we're currently spending over and above the 70,000. Could be more. Could be a little less.
Of micro C, I guess. I guess that depends on the price of micro C.
It does. And then our nitrate levels and how much we have to feed, and how our flow rates impact that, because your flow is part of the calculation to determine your feed rate. There's all kinds of different factors. So I just wanted to throw that in. So yeah, costs are going to be potentially a lot higher with the micro C. It's expensive stuff. I wanted to bring that back.
Yeah, thank you. And so in the worst case, it's maybe double.
Yeah, say it's an increase over and above our 70,000 we're currently spending. Maybe it's $60,000 to $100,000 a year. Give you a range. So sorry for all the details, but
Power consumptions. Minimal.
The details give it some meaning.
well, it does. We almost need to kind of paint the picture, right? So we understand as we go into this. We have a pre-treatment program compliance inspection by the water boards tomorrow. Lee and myself at the plant will handle that. Air Farmers of America, we're all aware that they no longer exist. And we had Noble Laboratories down across the street from our Orchard lift station that made soaps and bottled shampoos, and we had a little trouble with, and tried to get a permit out to them, and nobody would accept it. And we had numerous issues with Noble Laboratories. It was kind of a little family-run business, and it was hard to catch somebody, and nobody was accepting our letters. They weren't complying with doing all the baseline sampling that we needed, because we needed data to develop their permit on an accurate level to properly permit them. Found out they went away 6 months ago. So they're no longer in business. So those are the two that were kind of on the radar for the pre-treatment compliance inspection. So it might be a short inspection tomorrow. They're going to want to look at our pre-treatment ordinance. They're going to want to look at our enforcement program. They're going to want to look at some previous records, potentially for DFA, the last 3 years that they were online, monitoring them. Were we doing enforcement if they had a violation, things like that. So I think we're pretty squared away. They want to look at our last pre-treatment compliance inspection report and what the response was, and things like that. So that'll happen tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon. Since we can't go to DFA or Noble, let's say pick another business in our service area. It might just entail a plant tour, which I'm more than happy to give a tour to the regulators to show them.
It's a paper chase.
The last thing, and I kind of mentioned it, we had some Stantec engineers at the plant today. We talked full circle about the D9 filters, about our testing results for filters 1 through 4 that we had previously tested. And we talked about all the nuances and things we need to consider, and some strategic conversation about how we're approach putting these filters 1 through 6 online. Happy, beautiful timing for that.
Joe?
I just wanted to get a little heads up of where we're going and some exciting news. So the recruitments have closed for the treatment plant operator 4 and the inspector. The recruitments are going to close on November 8th for the collection system and the engineering technician. So we're expecting to go into interviews. So staff is going to be busy with those interviews in the coming weeks. And we don't have exact dates because we haven't talked to the folks yet. But I would venture that we're probably looking at onboarding people right after the holidays. So beginning of January-ish. But I would think staff would be able to. Compliance inspector, yeah. So we had four positions. It was a treatment plant operator 4, compliance inspector, a collection system operator, and an engineering technician.
So far.
I don't, but there is a, yes.
Good field to pick from this.
I think we have a good field to pick from, yeah. Let's see what else is on there. And then just maybe looking at the calendar, I do want to invite the board. We haven't set a specific date yet. I think it's tentatively scheduled for December 12th with a lunch, and it'd be a holiday lunch with staff and the be here. So, you can pencil in the 12th, that may change. We're gonna know more in a couple days.
Maybe that time of year already. Oh, my. It's very sad, isn't it?
That's it for my comments. I think we're details like Bradshaw just talked about, and the fact that we've got opportunities to hire new staff to help out. Things are looking up.
Anything further from any board members?
Couple things. It's only one thing. I finally had a chance to go back and review the video on the meeting on the 23rd where we voted to raise the salaries by 20%. And Jim, I wanted to thank you for considering the absence of some of us. Something around that, it's kind of an issue for the attorney. We have a board meeting, 4 present, 3 not present. And the vote goes 3-1 in favor of whatever the item is. Is that considered passage by our bylaws? And the reason I can expand on why I'm asking that, because I think at the board meeting, as I watched the tape, there was some discussion about what happened if it went 4-2. As it ended up, it was a 4-0 vote. It struck me that had it gone 3-1, that could have indicated passage, but with 3 people absent, those 3 people had an opportunity to vote. It could have gone 3-4. So what I was thinking around that is, it's kind of an idea, so I don't know how to say this, but it would seem to me if the board has something so significant, it's going to affect us by several $100,000 a year, rest of our existence, maybe the board should adopt a policy that says for items of 200,000 or more budget impact in or out, whatever the proposal is must be carried by a 4 favor. In this case, it was carried by 4 in favor, but it just struck me that we could end up in a position where 1 member present voted against, 3 members, had they been able to be there, would have voted against, and it would have been passed by a 3-1. If everybody was there, it would have failed by a 4-3. So anyway, I don't know what our bylaws actually say about something like that. I doubt that it's contemplated, but for significant budget issues, might consider adding something like that to our bylaws.
Can you
Just-
remind me, which director is speaking right now?
It's Director Martinson.
Martinson, okay. Director Martinson, I will look into whether the bylaws address this situation and get back to you on that. And then you guys can decide whether you want to update the code or not.
That was the odd thing that I thought of when I was watching that. The other thing, just as a comment, I think at the time seemed to be a rush to get that approved because maybe there were people waiting to know if we got some jobs or not. I don't know, but again, I do appreciate your concern about maybe waiting until everybody was present to vote on something that significant. I think the assumption was at the meeting is that, I would have voted against it. Stone would have voted for it, and it would have been 5-1 or a 6-1, depending on what Director Curtis did. So I think that's probably right. So I wasn't upset with that. But what I did not like is there's no discussion on how we're going to cover that 600,000 in our budget. And there was no discussion on effectiveness. We thought that was really going to entice people to come to the office, whether we had anybody turn down jobs because of pay. We haven't asked anybody about that, but beyond that, it struck me that what we've successfully done is raise the cost operation of this district to all of our rate-paying customers and gained no advantage over the other districts that we're trying to steal employees from, because they're all going to raise their salaries also. So it didn't solve the fundamental problem, attracting employees to this district, just throwing money at it, which is what we did. So it struck me that all of the districts that I'm aware of are facing this same kind of a problem where it's hard to get employees. Southern California in general is expensive. But we have a number of requirements that further limit the pool of potential employees. One being the 20-minute call out, for instance. I imagine other districts have that same sort of problem. And I don't think it's appropriate for us or all the districts to get in bidding a war over a small pool of employees. By raising our salaries, I don't think that's sustainable. We could go 5 or 6 times salaries, and if everybody else does it, we still don't have an advantage. So the idea I had, I wonder if it would be worth, because all the districts are facing this, it would be worthwhile getting a group of general managers together in some sort of a seminar or whatever, brainstorming ideas of how can we get around this issue of limited. Some of those things may be, the state's requiring us this. Can we get an exception to that? If we did get an exception to that, how would that affect our, maybe it's our call outs. If we extend that to an hour, what effect does that have on how many people are? And we bring in people that have nuclear power plant operations experience for 10 years as an OIT operator in training. Give them a salary commensurate with their experience. I mean, there's all number of things that you could potentially come up with that aren't just throwing money at it. So I just don't know if that's an idea that's considering, or if the other district manager, I don't know how much discussion you have with district managers. It just struck me that there's got to be a way around this rather than just getting into this spiral of ever escalating salaries and not really solving the problem. And kids out of school, I mean, there's all kinds of things that could be done. Is that something that you would find valuable, or is that am I just blowing smoke up my own butt?
I think there's a value to it. So I have reached out to Mary Wu. Mary Wu runs the Ventura Water Program at Ventura College Water Program. The professor down there. I've asked to be invited. She has a industry meeting that she puts together. Maybe quarterly, every 6 months, I've been asked to be invited to that meeting. And the intent of that meeting is it's held by managers, superintendents, they all attend. The intent of the meeting is to help her and her department understand what industry needs. Going back to your comment on restrictions, I think if you get more understanding the benefit of the industry, we're going to start to facilitate people coming into it, and there'll be less restrictions from that side of things. Does that make sense? I do think it's going to be important. I think it's going to take 3 to 5 years to pay off.
Things don't happen.
They don't happen. I've asked, I've asked the folks that work with us. We have some really nice brochures that we made up, that Allison made up, and I've asked folks that have kids in high school to take these brochures to their kids' high schools, to the career counselor, and give the career counselor an idea of what industries are out there that people in this neighborhood could work in. And again, it's not going to pay off today. But, it wouldn't surprise me if we have a kid from Nordhoff High School that's going to be starting in 7 years from now because of a meeting that he had with a counselor because someone dropped off a brochure. It's going to take a while. I do think there's a benefit to it, yes.
It just strikes me that it's just basic economic theory, supply and demand curves. We've got a situation where we had big demand, I'll say, and a small supply. Therefore, prices go. We can find a way to bring in experienced people without the certification necessarily and let them work towards that as they're employed. Our pool of potential employees expands dramatically. Anyway, just like I said, I definitely would have voted no for that in favor of some other better way to do this. Anyway, that's all I had about that. I think I've kind of beat that one to death.
Yeah, we might have been right on the edge of the Brown Act, but we're good with that. Thanks, Rick. Anything else?
Oh, one other thing, I'm sorry. When I went through and read the law about employee requirements for sanitary districts. This may be a question again for the attorney, but if I read it, I'm an amateur, so I don't think our election system operators have to be certified. Only the people in the plant. So is that something you could check for us?
Answer that for you.
Is it true or not?
Election system operators by state law do not have to be certified. However, their certification is tied into our pay and benefits. So we do have requirements. There's benefit to having certified operators. You know, as they gain skills and knowledge and they move up into the certification realm and at different levels of certification, it's definitely a personal and professional benefit,
Oh, yeah.
good benefit to the district.
There's no reason we could not hire oil field operator, collection system jobs without having that certification.
Election system, that's true.
It says on the-
Mix them with, so if our standard is the standard currently, we can change the standard for somebody else.
I think what we're getting,
Classification.
I understand what you're saying, but I think what we're getting at is we're having trouble hiring people. We need to start thinking about changing requirements so that we can get people in. And then with time, they can just, as a condition of continued employment,
It makes sense.
gain these
Professional
certifications.
sense, right?
That can be done every year. It's an annual thing. You take a test every year. So anyway, I just think throwing money at this is just not. It's great for them. Probably 20,000 a year bonus too, but it's not. Never happened in my career. Yeah.
I changed.
It did happen twice, but it was late in my career, so.
All right. With that, we'll adjourn this at 7:12.